What's up guys, my name is Andrew and this is EliteGamingHQ. And yes, I haven't posted a lot of videos on this channel because I've been working hard to build my motorcycle channel. Which, great success, 13,000 subscribers in the first year. But I still do build a lot of computers and I also do computer work. So in this video, I wanted to go over some parts and a parts list for you guys to make the best $1,000 PC you can make. Since prices of parts have come down significantly in the past year, this will be a computer that you can use for streaming, video editing, photo editing, and even playing any game on the market up 100 FPS and higher. So I want to go over these parts. I want to explain to you why I chose these particular parts on this standard build. Now, that being said, before we get into the parts, I want to say that there's a couple ways you can get this PC. Number one, you can get it from me or us directly, which is at EliteGamingHQ.net. That's our website. I will be putting this PC there, which will be all the parts. You will not have to pay taxes if you are outside of the state of New Jersey, but I will have to pay tax to get the parts, and it'll be some labor cost, so it'll be slightly more than $1,000. But if you want to buy the parts yourself, you can use my Amazon link below. You can go pick them out. I have them in a list, or you can just select the ones that we go over and choose, because there's a couple variations and options as I'm going to go through as we go through this parts list, and you'll be able to add them to cart and buy them directly from there. So, as I said, let's go take a look at these parts and let me explain why I would choose each one. Number one, we're going to start with our processor. With our processor, I would go with an AMD Ryzen 5 5600. Why? 5600 is the newest kid on the block, and it's also a 6-core 12-thread processor. Now, with the basic cooler, you will not be able to overclock, but you probably won't need to overclock for a basic budget build like this, and if you wanted to, you could always add a cooler in the future. A good cooler that comes to mind would be a 212 EVO. I'll also put a link here. If you want to overclock, you want to play around with that, make sure you completely understand and look up all the advice and directions how to do so, and I recommend the 212 EVO as the cooler for overclocking. But for $150, you're getting 6 cores and 12 threads with a pretty good turbo speed of 4.4. That's pretty amazing. You couldn't get anything like that years ago, and it's just amazing how much that hardware has come and software hasn't been able to really catch up yet. So we're at a good time where you can make a good computer purchase and buy these parts, and you're going to be good for a very long time. All right, next let's talk about motherboard. I chose the ASRock B550 Steel Legend, and this is the M.ATX board. Now, because I'm doing a smaller build for this, and I'm using an M.ATX case, now there is also a variation of this motherboard that is a full board if you wanted to go with a bigger case, but I really like this. I like the compact, I like the white, and that's kind of what the theme we're going for here. Good advantages to this motherboard is it has 4 slots for RAM, and we're going to fill 2 of them with this particular build, but if you wanted to do more, you have the 2 slots available. I also like how you have a heatsink here for your M.2, which is kind of cool, right? It looks beautiful, that's the other thing. And also, we won't have to do a BIOS update to throw in our processor. RGB LED lights on the surface of it. This is going to be a really nice motherboard. It's going to be flashy, and it's just going to bring everything together. So that's why I went with the ASRock B550. I've used a bunch of the Steel Legends before. They're pretty good. They're like the lower priced of the high end. You know what I mean? So they're like at a point where you can get a really nice motherboard with really good features, and yet you're not falling over that cliff of diminishing returns. All right, next is your hard drive space. Number one, the Inland Pro, the Inland Platinums, they're really good. I'm crazy surprised. I've used them in so many different builds. I mean, this is like you press the power button, and as soon as Windows loads, like boom, it's up. And they're great for gaming so far for me. I think this is a great price. Now, you could go to something like a Samsung and spend a lot more money, but the performance is not noticeable, right? I mean, like 0.2 of a second or something like that on certain loads, and you're not even going to see the difference, and they're going to be more than twice the price. So I think for $90, the Inland Pro is definitely the way to go. And if you guys don't know, this is a very easy process. So what you're going to do here is you're going to take this motherboard, you're going to unscrew these 2 screws, pop off this plate, and you're going to have like a little tray that this slides into, clamps down, and then 1 screw goes onto the back right here, and it just holds it in place. And then I would say leave that drive only when you install Windows. All right, next we're going to have a Seagate Barracuda. Now this is an option I wanted to throw in there. I've used these for tons of builds. Sometimes 1 terabyte is not enough, and there's also games that will not leverage the speed of the M.2 drive, so you might want something like a standard RPM drive, like something comes to mind like Terraria or Minecraft or anything like that that's not super like gonna pull from the hard drive. You can throw in here your music, your videos. It's just an option. I wanted to throw it in there. I bought from Amazon directly. I bought this 13 times. But yeah, I like to throw them in customer builds because I think it's nice just to have the extra space when you need it. And even if there's a AAA game that comes out and you really want to play, you could throw it on this hard drive while you're waiting for your SSD or whatever to come in that's going to be faster, that you can move the game over to there later. Now, that being said, if you wanted to add a big SSD, I have this 2 terabyte 870 EVO, which, you know, they're limited by the speed of the SATA cable, but they're still pretty fast. All your games are going to load great, and it gives you 2 terabytes of space. Now, you see the price difference, but when you're building a computer, you might want to just say, hey, I'm going to future-proof for my space. I'll add in this 2 terabyte SSD. I'll add in the 2 terabyte hard drive for less demanding things, and then I'll add my 1 terabyte NVMe, and then you have a very nice amount of space. So like you're looking at 5 terabytes, and you're not going to need or want for anything in a very long time. All right, next is the video card. Now, as I said earlier, we want this computer to be able to stream, video edit, everything like that, and also get like 100 FPS or higher in all games, like 1080p, 1440p. You're going to get over 60 FPS, no problem. So I really like the 3060s. I'm actually running a 3060 in my computer here, and the reason why is because for $400, you're getting a massive boost in video RAM, and you could go up to the 3070, but the thing is the 3070 drops back down to 8 gigabytes of video memory. Now, yes, in gaming you're not going to need too much more than 8 gigabytes of video memory, especially with compression and everything else, but you can leverage the 12 gigabytes for when you do video editing and streaming. You can use video memory for a lot of things like that, and that's why I really recommend these cards. These cards are a great price, great punch for the value of what you're getting, and they just perform really well. I've used one, I mean, this is all I use in my big rig, and I'm running a 3440 by 1440, so basically an ultra wide monitor at 1440p, and it still works great. You know, I don't do a lot of gaming from this station, but the gaming I do, I have no issues. I'll also put a couple different options because they fluctuate in price. So if you do end up buying from the Amazon store, you'll see a couple options there. All right, next is RAM, nice and easy. I love the Corsair Vengeance. It works great, never really lets me down. You can spend more money for a different latency RAM if you wanted to be a little bit faster, but once again, we're getting to the point where you won't really notice it. I think at this point, everything's pretty fast, and you have level 3 cache on your processor. So anyway, if you're going to go with RAM, I would suggest going with more RAM over, you know, paying an extra $50 to get slightly faster RAM. So 16 gigs should be plenty enough, but once again, if you go into video editing and stuff like that, you might want to up it to 32 gigs, and you know, you're paying $110 for 32 gigs of RAM, and it'll fill all 4 slots, and that's all you're going to need for a very long time. Even 16 gigs, I haven't used 16 gigs while gaming and streaming at the same time, so 16 is plenty enough if you just want to settle with that. Okay, next is your power supply. There's many different options here. Mainly, I did whole videos on power supplies. You want to go with generally a decent name that you know, not some Chinese like put together sheet metal, you know, with nothing really in it. But Deepcool, I've used Deepcool before. This is 80 plus bronze certified, which means it has 80% efficiency. Like I said, I have videos for that. You can go check that out and find out exactly what that means. I would not buy a power supply that's less than 80% bronze efficiency. If you go more, that's fine, but the problem with going more is a lot of times you do reach that level of diminishing returns. Let's say like a platinum or a gold, you know, it might be 7% more efficient, but 3 times the price. So I think this is the sweet spot for a budget build, and it's not going to have any problems. Plus, with 700 watts, 5-year warranty, they're backing their product because they know it will last. 700 watts, you're not going to really be using. I think this total, you're going to be using somewhere around 400 to 500 watts in this total system. So you have plenty of overhead. It's not running at its full maximum capacity. So this should last a very long time, and you shouldn't have any issues. And also, I like how the cables are braided. They're not the ketchup and mustard cables, so they're going to look good in the case, you know. Alright, so now let's talk about cases. There's a couple cases I would recommend, and as I said, I'm doing a small build. On the budget side, I like the Silverstone case. I'm going to show you guys what fans to use. There's a cheap set of fans you can put in here, addressable RGB, which makes this case really pop, and they'll give you 6 of them. And you can just line this case up. You can put 3 exhaust. So keep in mind, guys, when you use your fans, the shroud, the protection part, is usually the exhaust. Now, sometimes there's a little arrow on there, but we'll look here, and you see how the shroud, this part is in the back. That's your exhaust. So with 6 fans, we're going to go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. So we have 3 exhaust, 3 intake. And what I really like about that is I love these new mesh cases. Back, 2 years ago or so, you couldn't get too many mesh cases. They had glass in the front, and it just was a hot box for all your parts. Now they smartened up. They moved to the mesh. Maybe it doesn't look as clean as the glass. I could say that's an argument, but it being able to have high airflow and your filter right here, I think that's great. This is a basic case. It's running you very cheap, but it has everything you need, has the space you need, has the hard drive space. So, if you want something basic, bare bones, I mean, yes, it's nice to have a very expensive case, but how often do you really mess around with the case? A lot of people just build the case and then maybe they'll do an upgrade every 2 years or something. So you don't need the most expensive case, but then again, some people put it up on the shelf and they're looking at it a lot. So you really have to think about that. So another great case is Antec. Antec makes great cases overall. I mean, you get extra creature comforts, like this door that just opens right up, that you don't have to unscrew anything, little things like that. But once again, how often are you going to get into this case? I don't like the fans. Once again, I would use the fans that I'm going to recommend here. So there's the Antec. We also have Thermaltake. Thermaltake makes great products, just beautiful, great products. If you like to look at this one, everything will fit in there perfectly fine, and we can do the same thing with the intake and the exhaust of the fans. And lastly, I picked out Fractal Design. Fractal Design, I've used them a bunch of times, very small cases. This will be something if you want to use for like an entertainment center and you just want to put the case up there with the RGBs. You're not going to be able to put as many fans. We'll do, I would say, 2 and 2, which would be plenty enough. I mean, the smaller you go and the less airflow, obviously you're going to run into heat, but it still should not be enough to really cause a problem. Now, when we're talking about fans, I find these fans to be fantastic. These are the up here fans. They are addressable RGB. They give you this like controller that comes with like every RGB Chinese type fans, but it's very simple. So what you're going to do here is you're going to plug all of them into the hub. Then you're going to plug the power into the SATA. And then you have here can control all the lights, or what I would do is addressably plug it right into the motherboard. And then you'll be able to change the whole color of the motherboard backlights and all these fans to whatever color you want, or leave it like the rainbow RGB if you want. And for $36. So you could spend a lot of money. You could spend $30 a fan and get 2 fans, right? But for $36, we're getting a lot of airflow. Even if these fans aren't the most, let's say they're like 2/3 as good as the $30 fan, they're still going to push so much air. Now, the things to be aware of is these are bearing fans. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to just remember that once a year, you're going to have to clean these fans out. Maybe once every 2 years. You just got to keep them clean, because what tends to happen with these type of fans, and it could happen over time, is you could get some dust in them, and then when you start to get dust in them, it'll start to slow down the fan speed, and it could get inside the bearing. So you just got to remember to keep them clean. But when we go back to our cases and the cases that I chose, the cool thing about this is anywhere you place these fans, the ones that are going to be exhaust, they're all going to be already going to be filtered, because the filter is here for the ones that are on the intake. So you shouldn't have too many problems with dust, is what I'm trying to say, because it's not just like an open cheap like thing that's just not blowing in there like a wide open case. So anyway, that is the build there. Like I said, you can get this whole list. You can get it directly from the Amazon store, or you can buy it from me directly if you don't want the hassle of building it yourself. That's what we do. So just let me know. That's EliteGamingHQ.net, or check out the Amazon store, both of which will be linked in the comment below. And you can also email me directly with any questions if you would like, and that is EliteGamingHQ@gmx.com. So I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope you enjoyed this quick. I tried to punch it out quick so you guys won't be bored, and to try to give you as much information in such a short period of time. So once again, hope you enjoyed. My name is Andrew, and this is EliteGamingHQ. Thanks for watching, guys.